Hey everyone! Welcome to the Bold and Beautiful 24. I'm Alessio, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you love Bold and Beautiful, then you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Alright, let's dive right in. Ridge feels bad about picking Brooke. Spoilers for the Bold and the Beautiful. Ridge Forrester was standing in the peaceful area of the Forrester estate when the evening sun threw long shadows across the room. The golden light of the sun highlighted the fine lines on his face, the wrinkles of regret and worry that had grown deeper over the previous weeks, and the weight of decisions that felt like they could not be undone. Instead of the comfort and joy that the picture of Brooke Logan had once given him, he felt a pang of emptiness, a hollow ache that tore at him with every heartbeat as he gazed at the picture of her on the mantel, her smile frozen in time, radiating the charm, warmth, and undeniable magnetism that had captivated him for decades. Ridge's head was a torment of opposing feelings, a maze of self-loathing, resentment, and love that would not go away. Suddenly, it seemed like a huge mistake to pick Brooke, to dedicate himself again to the woman who had been his greatest passion and his most tenacious tormentor. This choice had pushed him deeper into a maze of squandered possibilities and sorrow. He could feel the weight of history bearing down on him, the many heartbreaks, the betrayals, the times he had trusted in Brooke's love only to be duped, manipulated, and doubted. With a nagging suspicion that he had been lying to himself all along, Ridge recalled the nights he had spent lying awake next to her, listening to the pattern of her breathing, and persuading himself that their love was unbreakable and their tie was unbreakable. Though his heart faltered and his cravings took him elsewhere, he thought of Taylor Hayes, the woman whose quiet strength, intelligence, and unfailing support had been a constant in his life. Even while Taylor had never sought to dominate him, manipulate him, or make demands, she had loved him with a steadiness that Brooke, despite her charm and emotional instability, had hardly ever been able to equal. Ridge was unable to ignore the faint ache of longing that came to him every time he thought of Taylor's tender touch, her calming voice that could still the fiercest raging storms, and the way she had always had faith in him, even when he didn't believe in himself. In stark contrast to Taylor's calm, steady, and deep love, a love that might not have thrilled him in short bursts but could have sustained him over time, he realized that by choosing Brooke, he had chosen chaos, drama, and the never-ending cycle of passion and disappointment that seemed to define their relationship. As he sunk into the recliner, his hands gripping the leather with a force born of rage and guilt, the knowledge struck him like a wave, leaving him temporarily breathless. Brooke's triumphant smiles after winning disputes, her laughter reverberating in rooms that previously held promises, the arguments that broke out over trivialities, and the unending tension that never seemed to go away were all memories that raced before him like a slideshow of sorrow. He recalled the innumerable family get-togethers when Brooke's presence had caused friction, where her good intentions had frequently collided with Ridge's own preferences and the needs of those he loved. Every memory served as a reminder that, despite its allure at the time, the path he had chosen was fraught with emotional minefields, and now he was forced to navigate the fallout with a heart that was heavier than he had ever imagined. Ridge's thoughts strayed to the present, to the events taking place in the Forrester mansion, Brooke going about her daily business, oblivious to the chaos engulfing him, planning encounters, controlling circumstances with the ease of someone who had perfected the art of influence, while Ridge felt more and more like an observer in his own life, ensnared by choices he could not reverse. He recalled the evenings he had spent divided between Brooke and Taylor, the private intimate moments he had shared with Taylor that had been eclipsed by his public displays of devotion to Brooke, and the meaningless triumphs that had left him feeling more alone than satisfied. The irony of his circumstances was nearly intolerable. He had selected the woman who required the most of him but provided the least in terms of emotional stability, while the woman who had always been by his side, patient and unwavering, had been cast into the background, a presence he now understood he could never completely recover without facing the magnitude of his errors. Ridge's remorse was exacerbated by his knowledge of the unintended consequences of his decision, the little changes in family dynamics, the unsaid conflicts with his kids, and the disappointment on the faces of those who had hoped for a more peaceful union. He could see how Hope Logan's heart had been caught in the crossfire of Brooke's aspirations and his hesitation, the concerned lines on Steffi's face when they battled, and the silent condemnation in Thomas's eyes. He was troubled by each of these revelations, which served as a sobering reminder that his romantic relationships never stayed inside the boundaries of his own heart, but instead affected people's lives in ways he could neither foresee nor control. Ridge experienced a constriction in his chest, a pain that seemed to reverberate throughout his body as he faced the reality he had long fought. He was not simply regretting a decision between two women. He was facing the fact that he had let familiarity and desire cloud his judgment, that he had exchanged lasting love for the exhilarating rush of passion, and now he was left to deal with the fallout with nothing but the harsh reality of his own choices. Ridge started to relive the conversations he had had with Brooke, the promises she had made, and the dreams they had imagined together in the mansion's quiet, broken only by the distant murmur of traffic outside and the faint hum of the evening air. He couldn't get rid of the nagging suspicion that many of those promises were based on shifting sands, that the dreams they had shared were as brittle as the fleeting emotions that had brought him back to her side. As he imagined Taylor's life going on, maybe with quiet sadness but with dignity and the knowledge that she had loved him without reservation, a love that had been his if only he had been willing to accept its constancy over the allure of drama, the self-recrimination grew more intense. The idea that some possibilities, once lost, could never be entirely recovered and that some decisions, once made, had unavoidable repercussions, no matter how strongly one wished it, made Ridge's heart hurt. He found himself in a transitional state between regret and longing, hope and despair, as the conflict between what was and what may have been tormented him ceaselessly. In areas he had never ventured before, Ridge started to doubt himself. Had he really known what he wanted, or had he been carried by the tide of time and the pull of a love that had defined him for so long, even if it no longer served his interests? He pondered the notion that his obsession with Brooke was more habit than love, more fear of the emptiness he would experience if he let go than a true connection. Even so, he was unable to erase the memories of their passion, the seemingly profound moments of connection, or the brief sense of completeness he had experienced in Brooke's company. This bittersweet memory only made his regret more complex because it was entwined with the unavoidable truth that Brooke had been a crucial part of his life, a force that challenged him, shaped him, and revealed both his strengths and weaknesses. Ridge's thoughts continued to stray, conjuring up fictitious possibilities. What life may have been like with Taylor, the peaceful evenings full of respect and profound comprehension, the laughter that came without the hurt of conflict, the love that required nothing more than loyalty and presence. He compared the turmoil, the ongoing negotiating, and the drama that currently characterized his life with Brooke to the stability, emotional depth, and harmony that might have existed. Every imagined life carried with it a mix of hopelessness and longing, serving as a reminder that the human heart is never content and that decisions we make frequently lead us down pathways from which there is no real way back. Ridge's reflection became physically heavy as night fell and the shadows grew deeper around him. He felt as though he was bound to a history that would not let go. He was attracted to Brooke, lured by the pull of history and common experience, and repulsed by the knowledge that their union had devolved into a never-ending tempest of disillusionment and strife that left them both emotionally spent and bruised. The contradiction was nearly intolerable. He loved her very much, but he was becoming more conscious of the fact that this love was mixed with annoyance, bitterness, and the nagging knowledge of what he had abandoned. Ridge reflected on his future with Brooke, imagining the conflicts that would inevitably arise, the strain on the family, T.